Good. Just to remind everyone, if you don't mind, like we're here, if you want to drop some questions in the chat and then or raise your hand and we'll call on you. And we're really glad you guys are here.
Great. Welcome everybody. It's really good to see so many people joining us today. My name is Charles Dillard. I am a planner and urban designer here at the City of Raleigh. We've got a few other folks from the city. I'll go ahead and just introduce everybody just in the interest of time. But wanted to point out a few of those folks. So Elizabeth Noy, she's a also a designer here at the city in our engineering services department, and she's been really instrumental. Recently moved to that department from the Urban Design Center. She's been extremely instrumental in putting this program together. She's trained as an architect and couldn't have done this without her. So she's going to be available for a little bit today. Unfortunately, she has to bail a little early. But you know, any questions you want to send directly to Elizabeth, just please send them our way, and we'll make sure she gets them. We've also got Jason Ruff with the City of Raleigh. He's our building code expert. He's gonna be able to provide some information and answer some questions specifically about sort of building code related ADU issues. And Jason, like Elizabeth, has been really incredible in helping us put together the program. You know, I'm not a trained architect. I'm trained in landscape architecture, but I think between Jason and Elizabeth, a lot of your questions can be answered. We've also got Katie, who introduced us. She's from our communications department, and communications is a big part of this effort. We couldn't have done this without her getting the word out, and she's going to be a big part of the process going forward, just making sure that information is clear and legible and transparent. And finally, we've got Donya Sandeep, also an urban designer from the City of Raleigh, here to answer questions, make sure that everything runs smoothly, and will likely be somebody you may be in contact with as we go forward. Just want to some other sort of housekeeping. So how we're going to run this today, and again, this is being recorded, and so you'll be able to look at it afterwards and share it with folks. We're going to do a brief presentation, try and not go too long with it, sort of introduce, you know, why we're doing this program, where it came from, what the sort of larger, what the city's larger ADU program is all about. Want to just share quickly some examples of similar models from Seattle and Los Angeles. Jason will talk a little bit about, you know, what you should expect from the building code perspective, and then we will jump into Q&A. I mean, we have some questions that we've already received from folks, so we've got a bit of a FAQ built out, but really want to hear your thoughts, your questions. And before I jump into the presentation, let me also just say that this is this ADU program generally, and the fast track program specifically, are likely to evolve as we go. We're all learning just as everybody else is, and very much looking for your feedback today and as we go forward. So without further ado, go ahead and share my screen here. See here. All right, everybody's seeing this presentation. So again, ADU Fast Track Q&A session for designers. Again, great to see so many people here today. So why are we doing this program, and why is the city prioritizing accessory dwelling units? Well, we know that ADUs do fill a particular niche in the housing market. You know, I think many people are aware that ADUs are a housing option that's particularly great for aging in place. So folks who would like to stay in their neighborhood, stay in their community, but don't necessarily want their large primary house, or can't afford the upkeep and maintenance, or simply don't want to continue to maintain a larger house. It's a way for them to sort of stay in place. We know that, family members, friends with disabilities who are not able to sort of completely take care of themselves, ADUs are a good housing type for those types of people. Gentle density is a word we hear a lot, but ADUs are generally smaller scale homes that can fit nicely into neighborhoods. Generally, as you're all aware, ADUs have become much more popular in the United States in the last 10 years. And we look forward to Raleigh becoming a leader on this issue going forward. ADUs have been and continue to be a priority for City Council. I'm sure you're all aware, in summer of 2020, the current City Council, or at least most of the members, approved new regulations that really facilitated their development, removed some restrictions that for the most part were making it, I think, very difficult to build. And so ADUs continue to be a priority for council. We've got a slide a little bit later on that goes into a little bit more detail about a report that the planning department put together a couple of years ago and presented to council that is really the sort of framework for all of our programs that we're conducting right now. Another reason why we are creating this program is that most residents who want to build ADUs are novices and can be deterred by the process complexity. So, if you're a homeowner and would like to build an accessory dwelling unit in your backyard, unless you're an architect or unless you are an experienced builder, that entire process is essentially building a brand new home from scratch. And so it can be intimidating for people. We know there are large barriers to that. It can be incredibly complex. And so we wanted to create a program that I think helps remove some of those barriers to these novice developers. This is a model, finally, that has been pioneered around the country in those cities that have, I think, been most successful in seeing ADUs take root. Specifically talking about places like Seattle, Los Angeles, communities outside of Portland in Oregon, and most recently, many municipalities in the state of California have pioneered this model, and there is a range, and some of these program types plans are being almost fully pre-approved. In some cases, they're sort of more like standard plans. But in almost all cases, there is some level of sort of post fast track site plan review process, and we'll get into how we're going to deal with that. So ultimately, this program really does aim to simplify the design process, the construction process, and just streamline permitting, and just generally make it a more predictable process to build. Want to go ahead and address what we know is a very important issue to all of you here, probably, and we've certainly heard this from our colleagues in the city of Seattle, and just want to sort of go ahead and address, what is in it for you all as designers and builders. So in the city of Seattle, which we'll discuss their program in just a bit, they set a sort of maximum fee for selling a plan license, and that fee was set at about $1,000. We've intentionally not set a maximum fee. We want to leave that up to you all. And there's also no limit to the number of licenses that you can sell. So it may seem like, we are looking for a way to get designs for free or for cheap from you all, but we assure you that we've kept this in mind. We had some discussions with AIA Triangle and the city of Seattle, and we sort of understand that there may be some sensitivity around this, and we're happy to talk about it later and field any questions about that specifically. But we have structured this program to the best of our knowledge in a way that will create some financial incentive for designers. In order to mitigate risk for you all, for the March 1st deadline, we are asking only for 30% designs. And we'll get into what that exactly means a little bit later, but we're certainly not asking you all to, go away and completely design an ADU and submit that, knowing full well that there's a risk that your design might not be selected by the jury. We don't want anybody to spend too much time on something that ultimately might not be part of the program. That said, and you'll hear this again later, you're free to submit any plans that might be more than 30% designs if you've already got one on the books. So again, yeah. This is an opportunity for early career designers, we think. Relatively low threshold design, small building footprint. It's a way for designers to get some experience. And the last one is, ultimately for those who are selected and perhaps even though it's not selected, we're still determining that it's, low investment marketing. We're essentially creating a website. It will not be RaleighNC.gov website as per the direction of our city attorney's office, but we are going to create a really nice website, including a resource guide for designers, homeowners, builders, other community members. And these designs will essentially be, marketed on that website in much the same way that, you might buy a shirt from a store online. So the model here, and let's see if this works for me. I might have to jump off, stop sharing, and then reshare my other screen. Let me go ahead and do that. Second. Now I'm seeing some familiar faces here on my screen here. Hold tight. Well, it looks like I'm not able to share anymore.
Do you want to send me the link, Charles?
Yeah, hi Katie. It's just I'm not seeing the options, the sharing options. I see the share screen option, but it's not giving me which screen to share.
I don't know how you set up, so I don't know how helpful I can be for that, but I'm happy to try to share it if you want.
Yeah, sure.
You might be able to take control for me once I share my screen.
Okay, I'll send you a chat.
Okay. All right.
Oh, here it is. I got it now.
Okay, great.
Let's see here. All righty. Everybody's seeing this now. So this is the City of Seattle's pre-approved website, pre-approved detached ADU website. So I would say this is, if you're looking for an example of what our program is going to look like and how it's going to operate, I would say this is what the closest example is. Seattle's is I think the longest running and most successful program to date. Really nice product here. So essentially the way it is, if I'm a homeowner and want to select a plan in Seattle, essentially what I'm going to do is check out this gallery they have. They've got 10 selected ADUs. You can see they have a range of sizes. Let's say I really like, this one here. Going to click on that, and they instantly, tell you up front, this is $1,000 to license. Again, in Raleigh, we're not setting that maximum fee. So we're expecting that some of you all might set your fee something around $1,000 and up, and up to a few thousand more than that. And it's really up to you all to set that. We're asking at a minimum, at least in this first phase, for plans and elevations in some sections. And ultimately, you may want to submit some renderings. But essentially how it works is, to use this plan to purchase it, the city of Seattle connects you with the designer. And you will then reach out, the homeowner will reach out to you, purchase the plan from you, and 9 times out of 10, they're also going to need to do some site work. I mean, again, the fast track program is reviewing the buildings against the building code for the most part. Folks are still going to have to submit a site plan, so it's very likely that in addition to the license fee that you collect from a homeowner, may get an additional design contract to do some site design work, any other sort of minor revisions to the plan. So that's generally how the program works in Seattle. And again, that's similar to how we'd like it to work here. We can share links in the chat to all of this for you. You can just search Seattle pre-approved ADUs. This is the City of Los Angeles website. Los Angeles has overtaken Portland as the city in the country with the highest ADU uptake rate in the country. They've really seen ADUs explode across the city as a form of housing. And we're optimistic here that Raleigh, with our relatively large backyards, might become a leader, not just in the South and Southeast, but across the country in terms of ADUs. And we think this program could help us. So similar to Seattle, you can see Los Angeles has an online gallery. Here they are posting, they've got 54 pre-approved to date. Their program is structured a little bit differently, but very similar. I can click on a home. Let's go all the way to the bottom. I like this one here, 600 square feet, 1 story, 1 bedroom. That matches what I need. Little description narrative from the designer. A little bit about the firm itself, a little bit about the design, and then they give you some renderings. And in some of these cases, they actually had built examples, and so some of these architects submitted photos of the built examples. But you get some renderings, a floor plan, that sort of thing. And again, they connect you with the designer. Homeowner purchases a contract, probably another site design contract, and goes from there. So with both of these programs, these buildings are, let's say, 95% approved from a building perspective. Again, you still have to get your site plan reviewed and all that. But we think it will eliminate a great amount of time from the process and potentially remove some other barriers to folks. So I'm gonna now talk a little bit about the City of Raleigh's program here. So how this is gonna work, again, the deadline is March 1st to submit. I'm just gonna sort of quickly scroll through our website. If there's any, I'm not seeing the specific questions right now, but I think Katie and Donya and Jason are seeing those, and so we'll make sure we address those. And I did see, Jason, you have to leave. You have a hard stop, so we'll make sure you have a chance here. The city, again, is asking for 30% designs for March 1st. And 30% designs, we're really looking at a minimum for plans, some elevation sections that specifically talk a little bit about how the structure is designed, but nothing that would indicate, full 100% design. Won't go through the program goals again, although we will say that the goal of the city and the council is to increase the number of ADUs across the city. One thing I did want to add about Seattle before I forget is that since they started their program a couple of years ago, they're now seeing that around 15 to 20% of all ADUs in the city of Seattle are constructed using their pre-approved ADUs. In the city of Raleigh, I can just give you a little bit of data right now. We've seen in the last 16 months, about 47 permit applications come in for ADUs. Unfortunately, 8 of those applicants had to recall their application, but that does mean that we've approved 17 and 22 are in the process of being reviewed or are ready for issuance. Even furthermore, just in the last month or so, we've seen the rate at which we've received ADU permits sort of double of where it was in those previous sort of 14 months or so, 15 months. So we think the ADUs are catching on. It's going to be an increasingly popular housing type, I think, here in Raleigh. So let's say, if we continue this pace where we are now, in the next couple of years, we're probably going to reach a point where we're seeing about 100 ADUs a year. 20% of those, if we match Seattle's rate, would come from this program. But, we think, again, Raleigh could even have higher uptake of ADUs just given the larger backyards, in our city. So again, and we've got some of this in the FAQ section. Anybody who's eligible to submit for a single family home in the city of Raleigh, state of North Carolina, is eligible to submit to the program. Again, just looking for a little bit of wall and roof assembly in that 30% design, but nothing extremely detailed, I would say. There is an option to submit up to 3 plan alternates for each design. That's just to make sure that any design that is, reviewed against the building code does not differ too much, such that it, its fast track status would no longer be eligible. We do have a few plan categories here. I just wanted to point this out. So we are looking for a diversity of ADU types. So we're looking for very small ADUs that might just be a studio or 1 bedroom, anything, less than 500 square feet. Talked to a designer today who may be on the call, who's in the process of designing a 300 square foot ADU in his own backyard, which he plans to submit to the program. So anything, that size on up, we're looking for, even a family sized ADU. We know 2 bedroom ADUs are in high demand, and even larger footprint ADUs. Raleigh does permit generally larger ADUs than some cities. We're hoping we get some examples of that. We're also looking for ADUs that have particularly sort of sustainable building designs, processes, methods. So things like passive house, net zero, that sort of thing. And a low cost alternative. So our jury will consider all of these categories and try and pick a diversity of them. The way it's going to work is you'll submit your plans for March 1st, and we'll have a jury that is composed of non-city staff who will deliberate over the course of a few weeks and select the designs. And those who are selected will then be contacted and told they've been selected, and then given, we don't have the exact timeline down now, but probably a couple months to take that on to 100% design. And then we'll get those reviewed against the fast track checklist. And we hope to have the online gallery up sometime around end of May, June. I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen now and let Jason Rupp speak a little bit about building code specific issues. So Jason, I can share my screen if you'd like. Go ahead and do that.
Hey, Charles, thanks for that. I really didn't have a whole lot beyond the slide that was in the PowerPoint if you wanted to share that, but it's
Sure.
really high level. So because this is the first pass and the 30% design drawing is what we're looking for here, then we're not getting really in the weeds with very technical code specific things. This is really just to get the group of designs together so that the jury can make further selections. So, but as you move forward with this, we do want to present this to you so that you know from the state of North Carolina what perspective we're looking at. These designs would be pursuant to the 2018 North Carolina Residential Code. That's what we're under currently in the state. And because these, even though they have the moniker of ADU, accessory dwelling units, the North Carolina Residential Code doesn't define those separately or differently from a design perspective. So we're still going to review those along the criteria, just as if you were designing a new single family home. Smaller in scale, simpler in construction, possibly. But that does give you a high level of what we're going to be looking at when we do their final reviews or the reviews of the selections that are made. And then I added a link here to the ADU page, which does give you some building, electrical, plumbing, and mechanical specifics there. That's something that's already on the city website for ADUs that are currently in flight, not part of the fast track, but that is a resource that's there available to you. So that's really it. This first pass is not too code intensive, we don't think. So that will be more to come once we meet back with whoever's selected after the jury. Thanks, Charles.
Thanks, Jason. Yeah, and like Jason said, we do want to keep this high level. So that said, if you do have specific questions that you want to ask today, or just follow up with Jason about, we've got an email address set up specifically for this program, and we'd love to hear from you. So just real quickly, want to talk a little bit about what else the city is doing on ADUs and how this program fits into the sort of larger universe here. And so again, this is the report from fall 2020. This is linked on the city's ADU website, so feel free to download this and check it out. This is essentially a report that we put together that covers best practices in ADU programs and regulatory approaches across the country for the most part. It includes everything from what cities have done from a permitting perspective, and I'm sure many of you know that what has allowed ADUs to sort of take off in some other communities is the removal of some of the fees associated with getting these things permitted. And so we have here in Raleigh eliminated most of the fees associated with accessory dwelling units built today. We also, another sort of program that we've started is an annual monitoring. And so we're actually going to be updating our city council probably quarterly regarding development statistics. So how many permits are being applied for, how many permits have been granted, the speed at which city staff is reviewing them, sort of any reasons why permits might not be reviewed or approved, that sort of thing. Ultimately, we'd like to know how ADUs are being used, short-term rentals versus, homes for family members that may not have any rent associated with them, that sort of thing. Ultimately, we'd also like to know how much ADUs are renting for. Anecdotally, we know in Raleigh, but also from some studies from around the country, the ADUs tend to be sort of naturally affordable. I think in San Francisco, ADUs rent for about 19-20% less than market rate apartments in the same neighborhood. We know that a sizable portion, I want to say 15% or so, of accessory dwelling units in Portland are lived in rent-free, in fact. And so again, I think that points to their particularly compelling use as housing for family members and friends who are not able to pay or able to take care of themselves. We've also looked in an upcoming text change at allowing multiple accessory dwelling units near high frequency transit. Again, this is in a proposed ordinance, so has not been posted for public review or submitted to the Planning Commission or Council, but that will be coming likely in the next month. The city, as part of that text change, is also going to create avenues for flag lot subdivisions. And we know that one of the primary barriers to getting small homes and neighborhoods built is the inability to get traditional financing for accessory dwelling units. And so we know that the ability to subdivide off a portion of a lot can help create these small homes. And of course, they're not technically accessory dwelling units at that point. They are a primary dwelling unit on a simple lot, but we do know that they're very related. We're also in the process of looking into the feasibility of an affordable loan program. Self-help has pioneered this model out west in California, Los Angeles, and Oakland in particular. That creates a low interest loan program to facilitate the construction of ADUs. Typically, there is some affordability requirement attached to ADUs built with this type of loan, 60% AMI, that sort of thing. But again, we'll be meeting with Self-Help and some other financial institutions here in the next few weeks to sort of get that project going. There's some more information, more programs and regulatory approaches there in that report. So please take a look and let us know what you think. So with that, we'd be happy to take questions. Like I said, we do have a couple slides of frequently asked questions. I'm happy to, perhaps I'll run through those real quick, and then any other outstanding questions, we'll just open the floor to you all for questions and comments. So again, who can submit? Anybody who can submit for a single family home in Raleigh or North Carolina could submit to the March 1st deadline. Can I submit a plan that I've already designed or built elsewhere? Yes, you can. Again, if you've got a design that you've already done for somebody else or for yourself, even one that's been built, you can submit that to the program. Okay, I see there's some questions in the chat. Katie, when I finish running through the FAQ, I will maybe hand it over to you just to pose those questions.
Okay, sounds great.
All right, thank you, Katie. What qualifies as 30% design? At minimum, you must submit plans, elevation, and sections, including wall and roof assembly. Can I submit multiple designs? Yes, just make sure that each one is submitted separately and labeled correctly. If selected, how much time do I have before the final plan submittal? Approximately 2 months, though we are flexible with this and working with designers as we go forward. Can I submit a modular design? Yes, any building code approved ADU is eligible, and we've actually received some specific questions from modular designers so far. Is this my only chance? If I don't get around to submitting this year, or I'm not selected, likely not. We'll likely be creating more open call opportunities in the future. And obviously, as new versions of the building code are created, we will likely have to sort of recreate the program. Go from there. Help to create this program. The city of Raleigh, again, we learned of this model from our peer cities out west. We had some really great conversations with the city of Seattle. They're folks who created their program, and they were extremely helpful to us, and we'll probably continue to call on them as they've got, simply have more experience with this. And AIA Triangle, we had a couple of really good conversations with them as well. Are you looking for particular design styles? We are looking for a diversity of design styles. I will say, in particular, we want to make sure that our historic preservation folks are involved in helping us fill out the jury, and that we've got at least a few jury members who've got experience in our historic districts. We know there's particular demand for ADUs in our historic districts, and so we'd like to see, at least a few fast-tracked designs that are, I would say, compatible with sort of historic district character. That said, we're looking for any kind of design. Raleigh, you all are part of a great design community here, and so we're looking forward to all sorts of designs that you can come up with. And the last question here, who's on the jury? We're in the process of filling it out. We have a good list of candidates, but it will be local designers, builders, preservationists, and other community members. And again, no city staff or applicants are eligible for jury service. All right, and with that, I'm gonna open it up to the floor. And Katie, if you want to go ahead and start to pose those questions, we can try and answer them to the best of our ability. And let me just say before we do this that, if we're unsure about any of these answers, we're taking good notes, and we'll follow up with each of you and all of you after today's session.
Hey, Charles, this is Jason. Before we jump into that, I do notice that some of the questions are getting already delving into site-specific type questions and things, and this is more about the open call for pre-screened plans and things. So certainly we'll try to answer those as we go through, but we don't want to give an anecdotal interpretation of something here when this is more about the open call.
Thanks for that, Jason. Katie, I see the chat now. I'm happy to go down the list.
Yeah, no, that's great. There were a couple that came in right when you first started. I don't know if you scroll back up to the top.
Yeah.
And I did hit on some of that already, and I think Jason might have an answer for Craig, but I wasn't sure. I know I can't answer that one.
Great.
So yeah, mute, then I'll scroll up to that. This was about, so I think as the presentations went on, Craig, maybe you understand this is, we're looking more about designs and plans that folks can go and choose. I certainly would see where maybe if you have those plans that are designed for your house or your product, then you could submit those. I don't think it's necessarily we're going to link directly to you selling the product itself, but I think your designs certainly could be submitted. I wouldn't see why they wouldn't.
Yeah, I think that's right, Jason. I just wanted to add that if you go to the Los Angeles website, you'll see a few designs from Abodu. I think I've got that right. Their company, it sounds similar, from out in California. They do modular sort of prefab ADUs, and they have a few designs on the LA website. But yeah, we will need the plans, the drawings, but ultimately, if your design selected, then yeah, we'll put photographs of your built work up on the gallery. All right. Next question from Jeff. How will the criteria of context be judged, considering that we don't know the exact site? Yeah, so we're generally looking for designs that can be broadly applied. We know that, with Raleigh, given Raleigh's topography, we've got some difficult sites, but we want to just make sure that any designs that are submitted could be built on most sites. So obviously, if you this is going to be a wild example, but if you submit a plan that's bridging over a wetland or stream or something, it might be difficult to get that fast tracked. But yeah, any design. Ultimately, though, if your plan's selected and a homeowner does select your design, I think that's the point at which you'll do some site work with that client and get the site plan approved. Again, the fast track program is really just for the buildings themselves, and this is the way the programs in Seattle and Los Angeles work as well. In both of those cities and everywhere else that these programs are in place, there is a requirement that a site review be conducted where the fast tracked or pre-approved plan in some cases is cited on a particular lot, and then go from there. Right. Let's see here. Got a question from, looks like Frank. Will there be variances granted for setback and or watershed calculations? Again, that'll be mostly at the site level where we'll be taking a look at that. We'll say that in Raleigh, ADU setbacks are 5 feet from the side and rear lot lines. And that's generally as flexible as you'll see, I think, in the state of North Carolina, at least. And really elsewhere, if you look at setback requirements in places like Portland, Seattle, generally they're much larger in those places. 5 feet is quite small for ADU setbacks. So we're hopeful and optimistic that most lots in Raleigh can accommodate an ADU. And again, that's another reason why we'd like a range of ADU sizes and sort of formats and layouts and things like that to give homeowners a good range and flexibility. How is square footage measured? Yeah, I think we're looking for a heated square footage, but Jason, if I'm wrong here, you can let me know.
From a building code perspective, heated square footage is most likely. I'm not sure the UDO side, that would be somebody in the current planning, but
yeah. So we'll clarify that answer, but yeah, I think we're looking for heated square footage.
Hey, Charles, can I ask you a quick question that was sent to me directly?
Yes.
Do they need to have a specific builder selected for the specific prototype that they submit?
No, that's actually a great question. No. So the way the program works is simply as can be stated is, homeowner contacts you, the designer, and they purchase the plan license from you. And so in purchasing that license, they then own a license to use the plan, and they can contact a builder of their own. But more likely than not, as the architect, you're going to have relationships. You may have, in fact, built this model of ADU with a particular builder, and just in the interest of convenience, might direct them to a particular builder. We welcome submittals from design build firms, and in those cases, most likely homeowners will probably be convinced that doing the full design build process might be most convenient for them, although ultimately it's really up to the plan purchaser. But I think it is a strategic advantage, I think, for any designer participating in the process to have you obviously all have relationships with particular builders, contractors, suppliers, that sort of thing, and so the easier you can make it for plan purchasers, I think the better. That's how we'll say it. Hope that answered your question.
I know you're going in the order, but I feel like because you're kind of already on this topic, I wanted to skip a couple of questions because there is a comment question here about design build partnerships. I don't know if you see that one.
Let's see here.
Design build partnerships are encouraged to submit. Curious if once the catalog is created, if there will be a construction cost associated with each design. It seems like that would be important from the client's perspective.
Yeah, it's really up to you as the designer to share as much information about construction costs as you'd like. I know that just in the last couple of years, costs have been all over the place and have gone up and down and back up, and materials and labors are constantly fluctuating. So Obviously I would urge caution in guaranteeing upfront a certain construction price, knowing that, 6 months from now, things could look very different from where they are today. But yeah, you're free to list that, if you are a design build firm, or if you're a firm that does modular or prefab designs and you have a little bit more clarity or ability to predict cost and that sort of thing, then yeah, I mean, that's an advantage for you, I would say. That's not to say that we're only looking for submittals from design build firms. We're not. I mean, and I think in most cases, if you look at Seattle and Los Angeles, some of them are design build firms, but I think most of them are not. So yeah, you're really free to share as much information as you'd like. And I think it should also go. We should also say that the city is committed to sharing as much information about the market as we know. There's a really great example from San Mateo County, California, this is a sort of county website, actually includes an ADU construction calendar. We can share the link to that, although when I looked at the website last week, the calculator was down, but it's this really incredible tool that allows you to select particular municipalities within San Mateo County, select your square footage, your number of bedrooms, bathrooms, that sort of thing. And then they had a very sophisticated calculator that took into account material and labor cost in those particular jurisdictions, and then would give you a sort of cost estimate range. You could even select, for sort of design intensiveness, you say you want fancy finishes, or you just want the most basic affordable finishes, and set it at that. And I think long term that is our goal, and so I think we would like to pair that. I think it's our goal to have something like that up on the city website maybe in a year or so. But yeah, I mean, I think we want the public to know how much it costs to build ADUs. And I think that would also provide some clarity to you all. I think
you left off on Thomas's question.
So I think we were at ADU location with regard to alleys.
Yes.
Yes, Thomas. Okay, yeah, good question. There are specific setback standards for alleys, mainly to protect against people trying to parallel park in front of an ADU and thus block the alley. So I want to say it's 4 or 20 feet. I could be wrong. But again, if you don't set it back a certain amount, you'd have to set it back 20. But let's clarify that. I will make sure we answer that on our website with regard to alleys. I will say that while we do not have a great wealth of alleyways in Raleigh, they are a particularly useful and convenient site for accessory dwelling units and tiny homes, and we'd love to see some development of ADUs on our alleys. Go to Jen's question. Hi, Jen. Any consideration of the new tiny home text change need to be made in designing a smaller ADU? Well, we're actually in the process of proposing even further revisions to the tiny house text change. And at this point, I do not believe we need to make any consideration of the tiny house text change. I mean, again, we are looking for, we're hoping to have a range of sizes. We'd love to see some ADUs that some would describe as, tiny homes. I mentioned the designer I spoke to earlier who's designing a 300 square foot ADU. Something even smaller may work as well. But ultimately, anything that would qualify as a tiny house would I think qualify as an accessory dwelling unit. I would need to check on just the HUD model there. but
Hey, Charles, I can help add a little bit to that too. I know currently the way the ADU text change is written, I believe it excludes mobile or readily movable tiny homes. So the HUD unit piece of the tiny home text change was added to make them movable or somewhat readily movable. So there's a little disparity between those two sections of the UDO currently to allow a HUD model, HUD labeled tiny home, I would think, as an ADU currently. So I hope that adds a little bit to that. But you're right, as far as site built, stick built, on site elements, I think you could see the kind of the merge of the two tiny home elements built into an ADU.
great. Thanks, Jason. Do ADUs require separate water and sewer taps and electric metering? They do not, and Jason, you might have the better answer than I do.
Yeah, I would actually just point to the website, because when you go into the electrical and the plumbing sections, it kind of addresses what's required,
Yeah.
Which is and isn't for certain utilities and things.
Thank you. We did meet pretty frequently with folks from water, sewer, utilities, and other groups, current planning, just to make sure that all these questions are answered. And again, yeah, thanks, Jason, for pointing to the website. From Redesign Build, how's the jury being selected? So the jury, we have a list of potential candidates that we've received from some folks. Like I said, our historic preservation group provided some, just folks who've been around the city. We've got a good list of candidates, have asked outside folks for a list of candidates. We're going to be reaching out to folks to make sure that we've got a pretty diverse jury, from perspective, from background, that sort of thing, and we'll select that jury. But we do want to just make sure that folks know that no city staff will be on the jury. Nobody who is, no individual who is planning on submitting to the program will be on the jury, that sort of thing. And we're happy to be as transparent as we can be about how the jury is created and ultimately who's on the jury. But we're in the process of speaking to folks right now. I hope that answered your question, but for many reasons, we didn't think city staff should be on the jury. We wanted to sort of eliminate any conflict of interest there. Looks like we've got another question about water, sewer, electrical connection. Yeah, and I'll just point you to the website for that one. Apologies, Bruce and others. We don't have a particular answer to that. We've answered the design build question here. So we're going to move back to another redesign build question. If selected and we develop drawings which get submitted to the city, who pays for the permit review at that point? I believe many of the permit fees have been eliminated for accessory dwelling units. For those that still remain, this is a great question.
Well, I think maybe this is actually, I think this question means if the jury selects them and they make it to the 100% design review.
That's right.
There are no review fees. That as part of this, as part of this fast track program, the city is providing the we're going to call it a pre-screened building review on the final selected designs before they get posted to the website. But there's no cost to those.
That's right. Thanks, Jason, for clarifying that. All right. Are there specific cost parameters that meet affordability goals for Raleigh? Not specific right now, although this is a great question, Jeff. Thank you for asking. We will go ahead and post what the area median income levels are for the city of Raleigh. We don't have specific AMI targets for any of these homes, although We're going to mostly leave it up to the jury to determine, affordability. And again, the jury will have some expertise to know with which particular building types, construction types can be affordably created. Just looking at plans, we'll be able to know which plans are, simpler and perhaps more affordable to construct. But no, we don't have any affordability goals right now that are explicitly stated. Another question from Bruce. Can someone design a detached accessory dwelling unit with, say, 600 square feet and also include another 300 square foot in the attic for storage with separate entrance? It's a good question. There's nothing, I would say, stopping anybody from doing that in this program. Although I will say that just keep in mind the sort of broad applicability of your design. I do think that that's probably a fairly useful building type for folks in Raleigh, adding storage space to their property for the ADU resident or the primary dwelling resident. So, Bruce, how about we have a discussion internally about this one, and we'll make sure we answer clearly. But I'll say initially that no, there's nothing stopping you from doing that. But yeah, just keep in mind the applicability of your design. Next question from Jen. How many plans are you looking to select? We are looking to select 10. That said, we have not had, we're very, I think, happy to see so many people on the call today. Haven't been too sure about what to expect in terms of reception to the program. But I think, in speaking with the folks from Seattle, they selected 10. I think there's good reasons for doing that. We're going to go ahead and say 10. If we don't get too many submittals, then, we'll see how many we select. And if this program ends up being extremely successful and we get, more submittals than we think, we may increase that to more than 10 ultimately. And again, we may issue another open call on down the line to add to or replace some of the selected designs. But we're saying 10 now, but we'll be flexible. What is the website that you were just mentioning with the design cost tool? So that was the San Mateo County Second Home Resource Center, I believe is what it's called. If you just Google San Mateo Second Home, usually the first hit you get will be that website. In addition to the calculator that they have, they've also got some really great and inspiring videos about ADUs and why people might build ADUs. So I'd urge you to check those out if you need some inspiration. Sure, obviously you're all already interested in ADUs, but some really great stuff there. So again, it's San Mateo County.
Hey, Charles, I think Chuck asked a question about tiny homes on wheels, and we talked at it a little bit earlier, but
Okay.
Currently the ADU text or the ADU UDO section specifically excludes mobile, or I forget the language, I can pull it up, but tiny homes on wheels are not eligible to be used as ADUs or listed as ADUs currently, the way it's written.
Great. Thanks, Jason. Can an ADU be built above a detached garage? Yes, but for this program, remember that we're looking for ADUs that are broadly applicable. So likely would be very difficult, if not impossible, for us to select a design for the program that's based on an existing building. But otherwise, yes, in the city of Raleigh, you can build an ADU above a detached garage. I think the height limit for ADUs is 26 feet. To check that, but again, that's actually a little bit more flexible than most places. In many municipalities in the state and around the country, maximum building height is 15 feet. So yes, in Raleigh, you can do an ADU above a detached garage, and you can do a 2-story ADU if you so choose. All right, so thanks Jason again. We got Chuck's question about tiny homes on wheels. Right. Looks like we've reached the end. Do we have any other questions from folks? It looks like everybody has gotten their thoughts in. If not,
yeah, I would, Charles. I was just going to encourage everybody. If you want to unmute and ask your question, that's fine too. Thanks for using the chat. That's helpful to keep us kind of on track and moving through. But now it's kind of an open floor for a little while. So if you have anything.
Charles, did you share the email address with everyone that you created for the program?
the ADU open call. Let me. That, and let me share the link to the ADU report. So sharing a link now to the 2020 ADU report. Feel free to check that out. Yeah, and again, really happy to see so many people on the call today. I also wanted to say, I don't know if I mentioned it earlier, but this is the only program we know about of its kind east of the western rim of states of California, Oregon, and Washington. So we know we're pioneering this in the South at the very least, but most likely, in the East. Looks like we got another question from Jeff. What are the most prevalent architectural styles for existing homes in Raleigh? I can't, given that I'm not an architect, I couldn't tell you the exact specific styles, but we're seeing a whole range. Obviously, we have, a fairly large number of historic districts, particularly, inside the Beltline here, where we know there's great interest in ADUs. And some of those districts do have particular historic preservation design standards. We'd be happy to share a gallery of existing architectural types, but those of you who know Raleigh know that Raleigh has a very strong, storied history of modernist architecture, coming mostly from NC State University. And so the design, I would say, you all know better than anybody that the design community here is very diverse in its approach to building and design. And so we really are looking for a broad range of design types. Yeah, and again, please check out, if you do have any questions, email us at adu.fast@raleighNC.gov. We're getting those emails every day and responding as fast as we can.
Hey, Charles, it's Tom Anhut. I just wanted to let you all know how much the DSAC appreciates the work that you're doing. This is great stuff. We're very excited about it. We've been advocating for ADUs for a while, and we're very excited to see this move forward. So thank you for all your efforts.
Great. Thanks, Tom. Good to hear from you. Glad you could make it, and please help spread the word about the program.
Will do.
Yeah, and I'll also say, if anybody wants to, have a phone call, would offer in-person meetings, but we're sort of in the office sporadically. Feel free to reach out, let us know in that ADU fast track email, and we'll do our best to set up a time to talk. But yeah, Thanks again, everybody. Any more questions before we log off here? Great. All right, thanks everybody. We'll be in touch and we'll share this video to our website and spread the word on our Twitter and Instagram and Facebook, and hope to see some great submittals here in about a month.
Thanks,
Thank you
everybody.
all.